Am I gone?
No, you're back. Hey, everybody. It's Kathy Klotz-Guest. How are you? Welcome to Building Better Businesses with my fun friend and co-host, Mike Ganino.
What's up, girl? How are you? So before...
We had a little
you're
like... I'm sorry?
You're melting.
I'm melting. I am melting. I'm melting.
Wow.
It was like 106 on Father's Day. It was 103, 104 yesterday, 102. So at least it's going downward. Like the temperatures are coming down to something saner in Silicon Valley. And Mike's in beautiful LA area where it's like 72 degrees and perfect. And look at his hair.
Pretty much every day. Every day we get that. But we pay, well, you guys pay for it too. You have crazy rents up there, crazy stuff there. So no, I guess I can't claim anything.
Well, yeah, it's true. But you got traffic, we got traffic. There's some wonderful things about being where we are in California and some hard things about being where we are. Everybody joining us, let us know you're here. Give us a shout out. If you have a question for us or comment, Mike and I will read it and share it and chat about it. We love hearing from you folks. So, and I know people join throughout the broadcast. That's awesome. So feel free. Got a question, comment, a joke, whatever. Mike and I love hearing from everybody because we're improvisers. This is content like literally being co-created with each other, with you, the audience, because that's how we roll. Hey, Renee, what's up, Renee? Mike, this is my friend Renee.
Hey, Renee.
Hey.
How fun. I love this too when it shows up. It's like the little picture and everything. It's so fancy.
Awesome. It's really fancy.
So cool.
It is really good. Renee, welcome. We're so glad to have you. Well, we're going to chat culture, and we're going to chat about building better businesses. And Mike, what's going on in the world? What's going on with you?
So before we start, speaking of fancy, before we get into it, I just want to say that my friend here, Miss Kathy, is very fancy. This book, by the way, is one of the top summer reads in marketing from LinkedIn. So I saw that LinkedIn said, this is one of the books you've got to read. And so you don't have to do it for yourself. I'm going to do it for you because I've read it. It's actually how we met. I got a copy of the book and was like, this is someone I need to know in my life. And then said, hey, can we get to know? And then here we are. So anyway, one of the top 25 reads from LinkedIn in marketing. So pick it up everywhere books are sold, certainly Amazon. And it's awesome. And you know what I love about it? And I told you this, Kathy. One of the things I loved about it is a lot of books that have that include, comedy and improvisational work in marketing. Mm-hmm. It's all theory. And it's very hard if you're running a marketing team. You're like, what do I do with this? What I love about the book is that it has exercises. So it says, here's how you do this. You can plug and play. So awesome read. I agree with LinkedIn, and I feel very fancy to even get to talk to you today, Miss Top of the List.
Thank you so much. That was really sweet. That was really sweet. Checks in the mail, Mike. I did not say that, but that is so sweet. No, Mike is one of the good ones. I love meeting new people. And I was telling Mike, when we talked about this, and it meant a lot to me that he said that because Mike's an improviser. We're both trained, Second City, Comedy Sports. We're both improvisers, but we both believe, Mike and I, in the philosophy of making it practical and real and not having it be stage stuff, because there is a place for that when we do stage work, Mike and I, but making it practical and anchored in something that people can actually do. And that was really the goal for this book. So when I hear compliments like that, and I hear people who come from that world, and I know Mike comes from that world, it means a lot to me. I really appreciate it because it means I did my job, and the job was to try to to anchor it in something people could get their arms around. So that means a lot to me. Thank you, buddy. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Aw.
So the world of business.
Yes, that is so sweet. Oh, thanks, Stephanie. And thanks, hey, Nick. Hey, Glenn. Hey, everybody. We're so happy you're here. Stephanie says, hey, way to go. Oh, that's so nice, Stephanie. Thank you. And Nick's here. Hey, Nick, what up? One of my favorite lawyers, social media lawyers. Glenn, who's an entrepreneur, very, very smart tech guy. So thanks and welcome, everybody. So let's talk about what's percolating with mergers and culture this week.
So much going on. So the big news was, I feel like we're like a funny little like news thing. Like, here's what's the latest. And I've got my little tip sheet here. Like, reporting. Or like, I don't know, what is the name of the Savannah Guthrie? I'll be the Savannah to your Matt Lauer.
There you go. There you go.
Although hopefully than Matt likable. Yeah. You have better hair than he does. So obviously the big news, the big two, I think the big one everyone's talking about is Amazon and Whole Foods. The other one that I think is interesting is Walmart and a men's clothing line called Bonobos that started as a retail company online, but then worked very much like a tech company. So it became very popular and lots of people talking. So that acquisition, much smaller, I think $350 million compared to the $17 billion price tag for Whole Foods. So maybe let's talk about Amazon and Whole Foods. Well, the thing that I said to you that I think is interesting is how Amazon and Whole Foods, everyone's like, oh no, you better watch out, grocery stores. This is great. And when people saw the Bonobos and Walmart one, they were like, oh gosh, Bonobos is awful. I watched I was looking at their Facebook feed when they announced it, and people were annihilating them. They were saying like, I hate you, no ethics, and how dare you do this? It was my favorite thing. And so I was thinking about it, and I thought, it's got to just be it just didn't line up brand-wise. I think Whole Foods and Amazon, people are like, okay, that makes sense. And I think with Walmart, there's some, some bonobo shoppers who are upset. But Walmart recently did the ModCloth deal. So I think, I don't know. What do you think? Why do you think?
Well, it's interesting. It made so much sense to me. I could see why Amazon would buy Whole Foods. And the reason Mike and I talk about these things, everybody, is because we look at collaboration and creativity and all these things as extensions of the stage. What improv really is at its core, which is building things together. And culture really is at its heart and soul. I think it embodies a lot of the elements of improv. We're creating things together. And that's why we're sort of having this talk on culture. It made so much sense to me. I got it. And I saw what Amazon got out of it. I think I see what Whole Foods gets out of it. I think it's going to be interesting because we always know that mergers, most of the reasons that mergers fail, there are two big reasons. Because I've been a part of mergers in high tech when I was managing marketing. Cultures, the number one reason is a clash of cultures of why companies fail. The second reason is that the math, 1 + 1 should equal 3 in a merger. When you've got two companies where 1 + 1 equals 1.5, HP and Compaq, for example, that was not a top line growth, revenue growth merger for those two companies. So it failed, but culture is the number one reason it fails. I think there's a lot of synergy. I'm going to kick myself for using this jargon. I hate the word synergy, but in this case, I think there is a lot of synergy between Whole Foods and Amazon with their customer base. And I think Whole Foods has a market that sort of embodies access and embracing of technology. So I think it makes a lot of sense. It raises the bar. And the interesting thing will be culture. How will that work? I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think Amazon's done a good job with Zappos of saying, hey, we're going to let you do your thing. And I think that in the acquiring of Whole Foods, it's probably acquiring something that kind of works. Like Whole Foods is in a lot of ways known for having a great culture, great kind of people systems. There's some things that don't work, but for the most part, when you look at like great places to work, Whole Foods is on that list most of the time. And so I wonder if Amazon doesn't know how to deal with this because they did it with Zappos to say, hey, keep doing your thing. How do we help you do more of it? And we just want to tap into some of your resource here, which seems like the play to me.
I think you're right. And I think that's a great observation because I got thinking about it. And when they did buy Zappos, to your point, they did say, why mess with something that's working? And part of the reason they're so interested in Zappos is that, we talked about it before, you and I, Mike, it's like they really have one of the best customer service models out there. I mean, they are known for exceptional customer service. And I think one of the things that Amazon's very smart about is taking what's working from other companies and making it mainstream. Like, did you know that the whole Tell people you'll get it in 3 days and then they get it the next day was a Zappos technique. And Amazon adopted that. Let's tell them 2 to 3 days, but then see if we can surprise people. That actually came out of Zappos, and then they rolled that out Amazon-wide. So I think Amazon's smart enough to see what's working with their acquisitions and make that a larger kind of corporate initiative. And that, no doubt they'll do that with Whole Foods. And it makes sense because, there's that, they're experimenting with drones. Could drones then deliver groceries and things like that? Well, yeah, I think there's a lot of goodness to happen there, I think, with their culture.
Yeah. Well, and I think it also does the thing of saying, oh, this is a great thing for Whole Foods because now they don't have to figure out what to do with going online. It's like, it's not a huge play for them, the online space. And so now there's something interesting to say, okay, wait a second. Is Whole Foods getting out of this the ability to have an online presence at a much bigger place? I'm imagining some custom kind of store within Amazon that's like a Whole Foods store, which is the same thing they did with Zappos,
Absolutely. No, I think that's a great point. Glenn says, it's weird because I feel like it's covering up half of Mike's beautiful face, and I'm like, can we just? I wish I could move that. It's like a mustache, it's like a milk. It's like a got milk. It's like got big old comment mustache. But let's see what Glenn said. You bought Whole Foods because they now have a whole lot of locations full of people with shipments. Yeah, no, I think that's true. And Whole Foods as a local short-range distribution mode. Yeah, I think that's really true. I also think that, it really comes down to the high-end capacity. If you think about the Whole Foods customer, probably the same early adopters as the Prime members, the Prime membership base. I think you have a lot of overlap because one analyst put it at, and I don't know where he got his information, put it at like maybe 60%. Probably, I would say that you have a lot of overlap there because it's the same sort of early adopter kind of mindset customer, and I think they know that. But what was really smart, I don't know, Mike, if you heard this, they also, Amazon, a couple of weeks back, reduced their Prime membership for lower income earning households. So they don't want to leave behind the people who don't make as much money, which I think is really smart. So they cut their membership fees for certain income brackets. Uh-oh, I'm losing some of the audio.
Oh, for me?
There we go. Okay.
Let me lie down and see what happens.
You're rabbit ears. You're like, don't move.
I know. It's my beacon. It's like,
it's your hair antenna. Yeah. It's your hair antenna.
That's you didn't know the whole time that's what was going on, but it is. It was what happening. Yeah, I think it's interesting because I think that there's a lot of congruency there, and I think it's going to work. I think it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think the funny thing for me is that everyone jumps on the bandwagon immediately saying, here's what's going to happen. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Like, that's the point of like people doing something that might be disruptive is we don't know what it's going to do. If it was, we would just all do it, So I think it's going to be interesting to see.
Yeah.
And I would imagine the culture play is to let Whole Foods stay what it's doing. The same as it was Zappos.
I totally agree. I think if it's doing well, why dismantle it? It clearly is working, although it's interesting because I was listening to a news report, and it's all speculation, like you said. We're all playing armchair quarterback, right? I think the speculation is really that Whole Foods has been declining. Their growth has sort of leveled off, and actually some are saying it has declined because of pricing and not being as competitive. And also, I think John Mackey's stance on some things have been kind of controversial. That notwithstanding, they still have huge support, but they're no longer differentiated by just being an organics distributor. That they lost that sort of, we do organics and that's what we specialize in a long time ago. So It's interesting, but I certainly think they have the storefront, and Amazon was experimenting with that one-touch scan kind of technology. I could definitely see them rolling out their scanning technology in all these storefronts because now they have the storefronts to do it. So I think this is it's a good play for them with the technology, but it always comes down to culture and how this stuff gets rolled out. So we'll see.
Yeah. How does it all merge? It's so interesting because this is the part that I think is like, I wish I was inside. I wish I was inside to see like, how do they communicate it to people and what did they promise them and what's the next thing? Because I think often that's where companies get it wrong when they do these mergers is the news gets ahead of what they've done internally. Yeah. And so we're all talking about it. People are speculating. And because they haven't given a narrative to the people that work there, the only narrative is the one that people are reading on Twitter. And so I think what's interesting is it would be interesting to be inside of in this case, Whole Foods, I think, to say, how is it being shared? What are people being told? Why are we doing this and what happens next?
It's a great point. It's all communication. And it's funny because it's another example. We don't know yet. It's all speculation. You're right. But it's interesting because pundits always look at, there's the technological end of it, and there's all these different things. And we make the case from a technological and revenue and all these different things perspective. And you and I both know that, again, the success of these mergers always comes down to culture and people. So just because they have the technology doesn't mean there won't be some serious, like, people issues or the potential for people issues. It always comes down to people and process. And that really is going to be the make or break it thing. So it'll be really interesting to see the yes-anding of how they yes-and a lot of the Whole Foods culture. And if there's anything that they go, you know what, that's a really great thing. Let's see if we can roll it out company-wide, because the smartest companies really make culture a priority. And it seems like Amazon's done that. They've really tried hard to be mindful of cultural things. And when you absorb a company, you take the best of that and you company-wide, So. And
I think one of the things that sometimes Amazon gets a bad rep for being so, I don't know if aggressive is the right word, but being really intense. But the great thing about it is that's clear from the beginning. Yeah. So if you're somebody who's like, I'm light and fluffy and I don't want to, you would know that it's not a good fit for you, because the thing about it is that every culture can be a good culture if you're intentional, if you're clear. I think one of the things that people miss sometimes with culture is that it's opt-in. Where it goes wrong is when people didn't opt in. When I signed up to work at Google, but I got there and it acts like Apple. Those are not the same cultures. And so if I opted into a Google culture because that's what you promised me, and then when I get there, it's very different, there's where the issues come in. And I think where Amazon has done a good job is say, no, we are tough, and it is tough, and we expect a lot. And we expect you to be really, really a lot better this year than you were last year. And if you're not, you're going to get fired. But that's clear from the beginning. And so if that excites you, then you opt into it. And I think I think Whole Foods is very similar in that it's like, hey, this is what it's like here. Like, we vote on stuff together. Salaries are visible to everybody. And so you can opt in if you want and be happy here.
It's true. And to just iterate that last point, because I think it's so important, is that opt-in transparency. Whole Foods is always, whether you agree with conscious capitalism and whether you agree with John Mackey, and a lot of people don't, a lot of people do, there's never a mistake about what they stand for. So when you go work for a place like Whole Foods, there's total transparency. You know what the company's values are. They don't hide it. Whether you agree or not, that is a conscious choice that you're making. And so I like that kind of transparency with two companies that you kind of know what their cultures are. You know what they stand for. And I don't think there's anything hidden there. At least there's not to consumers, and there's certainly not to employees, at least at this stage. Hopefully it'll retain these things, because these are the cultures that people buy into. The stories, when you buy Amazon, you buy into that story. Whole Foods, you buy into the Whole Foods message. And there you go. So
there you go.
But you mentioned Walmart. Tell us about Walmart.
On that, so position, because I think the challenge people are having, the kind of, visceral reaction people are having to the news of Walmart acquiring men's clothing retailer Bonobos is because the incongruent cultures.
Yeah.
Which I think, and I think you hit it on the nose with Whole Foods. That's not the case.
Yeah.
These two very strong cultures, very clear what they're doing, very intentional on who they are, and they're coming together makes total sense. Here we have Walmart. We all know who Walmart hiring Bonobo, which started as one of the very early exclusively online clothing retailers. They were a retailer who acted more like a tech and became very popular for their better fitting jeans. And since all kinds of other, not jeans, pants, chinos. And since then have moved into golf wear, women's wear, all kinds of things. And so $350 million was announced that Walmart's acquiring Bonobos. Walmart recently, through their Jet.com kind of thinking, also acquired ModCloth, which people are kind of like, are they doing so well? So Walmart Bonobos, that's been the one that I was, I saw a lot of people unhappy about that acquisition. Lots of Bonobos customers unhappy.
Yeah. I'm not a Bonobos customer, but I will tell you that, when in fact, I didn't even realize it until you mentioned it. Mike mentioned it to me in email. And I thought, well, that was my visceral reaction. Speaking of visceral reactions, you nailed it. I went, no, that's interesting. I don't see, like Whole Foods, Amazon, you're like, oh, that makes sense. And then you hear about Bonobos and Walmart and you're like, what?
Yeah.
You slow down. Opposites can attract and be very attracted to each other. But it made me laugh a little bit because it did feel like we're to talk about two incongruent cultures, or at least value propositions and what they're all about. And is that consistent? Is the Bonobos thing consistent with what Walmart stands for? Not really, but is Walmart then trying to go upscale and change maybe their culture one acquisition at a time? I don't know. Yeah. And it's strange too. They also bought Jet.com, and you mentioned that. And here's the interesting thing, and I've seen this happen with technology companies, is that when a company goes on a buying spree and acquires growth through acquisition, starts acquiring all these different elements really rapidly, the problem is that they're acquiring faster than they can absorb. And what ends up happening is the cultural damage that happens, it can't be understated. And I see it happen in the networking world and in tech all the time. And a lot of it is they have no intention to absorb the culture. They just want to buy out their competition. Mm-hmm. But it brings up a really important point, is if you're on a buying binge too quickly, that can be a really tough thing, because now you've got all these culture clashes going on in your company. And that's a lot to deal with at the same time. So I don't know.
And where these are, so acqui-hiring in the tech world is where you acquire a company just because you want to acquire the engineering team or something like that. It's who we talked about last week. They had a long, those 5 people. It's cheaper just to deal with like some kind of poaching legislation so that we engineers on our team. I don't think that's the case here. I really think it's how do we diversify the plan? But the risk is going to be, do they have enough runway to let all of these companies operate separately so that they don't have to worry about the culture blending? Or are they going to do this and wind up with this like kind of ugly, they could end up with a coat of many colors, as my girl Dolly Parton would say. Or they could end up with just a really ugly quilt.
And that's always the struggle when you buy so rapidly. You haven't had it feels like they're still fresh off the Jet acquisition from last year. They haven't really fully absorbed that. So buying these different brands that are fairly different, I get where Walmart's going. You know what? We want to sort of change our perception in the market. However, these types of acquisitions of culture and culture fusing takes time. And it'll be really interesting to see, like as you said, it's like, are we going to end up with a patchwork quilt of cultures, which is never good for anybody? Or you end up with a really tightly integrated culture? Because man, if it's a patchwork quilt for the employees, it's sure going to be a patchwork quilt for the consumer. There's no ugly patchwork quilt culture wall to stop that stuff. Stop the ugly the door. Stop the ugly at the door.
The
You know. So I don't know.
I think it's interesting. I think it's so funny because I was just thinking, if Amazon had acquired Bonobos, I wonder if people would have been like, "Oh yeah, makes sense." This retailer's buying that retailer, but it's the incongruent culture thing and the incongruent ethics, and it goes to show that people really do shop. Some of these people on Facebook that I saw commenting on Bonobos on their page could have just been like internet outragers who are outraged by everything, but they haven't shopped at Bonobos in 5 years. Yeah. But for the Bonobos customer who really does say, I'm done, it raises an interesting thing around consumers really do shop with their heart. They really are, because that was some of the reasons I read. People said is that I don't want to shop there because I disagree with these things that Walmart does or something like that. So I'm done shopping at Bonobos if it's through Walmart. And so there's this idea that people don't shop or work places because of what the company stands for. And this is really showing that it is true. We shop, or I guess it might show, we'll see what happens with Bonobos, that we do shop for places for reasons other than they have what we need.
I think it's so true. I mean, it's funny as you were describing it, because I don't shop at Bonobos. I have friends who do. They felt the same way that you were articulating. And I asked myself, all right, take Bonobos off the table. If it were a company that I love, like Tom's Shoes, what if Walmart bought Tom's Shoes? I would be like, that would be, I would have a visceral reaction to Tom's, because Walmart sort of represents the worldwide, it is the king of the hill retailer, except I think it eclipsed it in a couple categories just recently. But I mean, it's the largest retailer in the world. Talk about just the giant, the monstrosity. It's the ultimate in corporate. When you think about the corporate man, Walmart is the corporate man. And I think that Tom's is sort of such the opposite. And it was always about helping people from the very beginning. And it's uncorporate. That I think that would be to me, that would be like it would unravel, I think, the credibility of Tom's. But when we're talking about Bonobos here, I don't think it unravels it, but I could see why people have a visceral reaction if they opted into Bonobos being this sort of, cool brand that is uncorporate. Then people are like, well, wait a minute, you just sold out.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting to think if you are a big brand, or Walmart, could you secretly build a sub brand that people didn't know that you'd be like, oh, this is so cool. I wonder, and then people would be into it to say, how much would be outraged by Walmart? And how much of it that we want to say like, oh no, we hate everything from them, versus what's actually happened. I don't know. For me, there's a little bit of in the improv world, we'll say, play the scene you're in. Yes. And so if Bonobo stays a $350 million company that does great things and produces great quality and produces them with the same manufacturing standards, then aren't you somewhat helping to push the problem if you say, I don't want to buy that anymore? Yeah. Because then it's like saying, I don't want to shop at organic, I'm not going to buy organic milk from Horizon because they sell at Walmart. Well, then you're shooting organic milk industry in the foot because Walmart is such a big distributor that we actually need them to be selling this organic stuff for there to be a great organic marketplace,
Absolutely. I mean, it's really got kind of the heightening thing here, right? If we say, I'm thinking Tilt, which, for folks who might not know, Tilt is just like a surprise sort of, it's like the story goes, a narrative arc takes a little bit of the unexpected. But a tilt can be such a really beautiful thing and a next evolution in a company's story. I think part of the thing is we expect the story to stay the same. And value shouldn't change, but that doesn't mean that the story doesn't evolve. And to your point, a tilt can be a beautiful, throwing a monkey wrench in it, but it can be a beautiful gift. It can be, as Mike is saying, play the scene you're dealt. Exactly. Whatever you're dealt, whatever comes up, playing that and accepting that and building on that to the best of your ability could also be a huge gift in that company's evolution. So These could all be hidden gifts, I think, in some ways, if they're played right. It's just the values don't change. The stories will evolve, but the values shouldn't change, I think.
Yeah. And I don't know, hopefully there's somewhere where there's a positive value shift for Walmart.
Yeah.
You know? Or really the issue is not so much values. I think when people are upset about Walmart, it's not values. It's like, oh, I disagree with a few of these actions. But it was really interesting. I posted on Facebook that I thought it was, there were some people who were saying, I'm going to boycott Walmart. And it's like, you're not boycotting Walmart if you never went to Walmart. Like, if Walmart wasn't somewhere you would have shopped, you're not giving anything up. It's like people who are like, I'm giving up chocolate for Lent, but I never eat chocolate. And it's like, well, then you're not giving up anything. That's not the point. And so I thought it was like a little bit, people, and people said this about Uber when all of the Uber news first broke. Earlier this year, they were like, delete Uber. And it's like, are you only deleting Uber because you have Lyft? Or would you still be using Uber if there was no second choice? Yeah. And I think this case where people are saying that I had somebody post on my wall and say, thank you for posting what I did about like, hey, that's not really the same to say I'm boycotting somewhere I never like for me, it'd be like, I'm boycotting Forever 21. Well, Forever 21 doesn't make clothes for people who are like my sized. So I'm not boycotting it if I don't shop there, because I would never shop there. Like, I'm boycotting Dick's Sporting Goods. Well, I don't shop there anyway, so sure, boycott it. Right. And someone posted and said, for her and for her family, who are lower income and living in a rural area, it's the only option.
That's right.
It's the only place that she can get fresh produce. So it's a mess. It's very confusing to deal with. But I think, there's a lot of stuff there.
Yeah, no, well said. I mean, look, the reality is a company can have great values. They can have a misstep. That doesn't mean they're a horrible company. And I think to your point, I mean, I'm not defending Walmart. I have shopped at Walmart. My kid loves Walmart. I don't shop there. I don't shop there a lot, but I have been there. And I will say that they do a lot of good in the community. They actually, I think, try. Have they made some missteps? Absolutely. But there's a difference between a company that just doesn't care versus a company that gets it wrong and is accountable and tries to fix it. And I think you're right. And we tend to be a little bit pessimistic about these things, like, oh no, Bonobo sold out, or oh, I hate that. But maybe to your point, it's really the optimism of yes-anding it, which is maybe Walmart recognizes that they need to sort of embody different values. And it's one step in a lot of little baby steps to try to do better or to reach out to this audience. And so it may not be insincere. It's not going to happen overnight. So I think that's where the kind of just the optimism kind of has to come in a little bit,
Yeah.
But
I love it. You said, you talked about culture shift and shifting things and changing rules and perspectives based on what's current. That makes me think of the announcement today that Uber is going to start allowing tipping for drivers. So Uber the entire time has had no tipping for drivers. It's been a huge piece of contention. There's been a lot of unionization efforts around like the drivers should be allowed to be tipped and they should be able to collect it. So they've announced that I think in July they're going to start doing it. So there's part of me that thinks like the cynical side of me is like, oh, you need some good press. And then there's part of me that's like, who cares? If it's giving these people some more cash and that is beneficial, then who cares why they did it?
Right. That's a really good point. Yeah, I think we tend to be again kind of cynical, and for good reason. I think there's also a difference when a company has a misstep, it's one thing, but when a company has a series of like one after the other, at some point you go, it's just not a good company. Maybe it's just not, and so there's a difference. I think it's smart. I think it's really smart. I think they're trying to do better. I actually talked to a couple of Uber drivers who actually say that they've never witnessed any of these bad behaviors, and they're just trying to earn a living. And I believe that. And I think there's a difference between people who just don't care, and then there's the employees who, look, I'm just trying to make a living, and I don't like the way they're behaving, and I've made it clear to the company all the way up the food chain. But don't drivers who are just trying to make a living and they're not doing anything wrong, don't they deserve to maybe get a little extra something for delivering great service? And I think, sure.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I'm okay with that. I mean, but Uber's got bigger issues. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah. Well, there is that challenge, right, of saying, okay, this big Goliath has been caught doing all these wrong things. You and I know from a culture change perspective, it's going to take a long time to get the pathways to work differently and, you know, the norms. I was talking with somebody, we were talking about cultural norms and team norms and how once something becomes a norm, you don't need to write it down. It just is like, oh, well, we don't talk to Bill because Bill yells on Monday, so leave Bill alone on Monday. No one needs to write that down. We all just learn it. And there's a lot of that going on at Uber. So it'll be, you and I both know it's a long path ahead for them. And I think, you know, we love an underdog story, but we love Goliath falling down too. Not you and I personally, but the world, or at least the United States, loves that. And I think, you know, I think it'll be interesting to see what happens.
We do, and I think it plays into people's notions of right and wrong and good and evil. And all these archetypes, they're really old tropes, but they work. And when you talk about corporate narrative, when you see the big bad corporate company and some of the things that they become the poster child for all that is wrong in Silicon Valley. And of course, you know, they're not the only ones, but they became probably the most, I'd say, pronounced case in the press recently of when brands go off the rails. And, you know, so it's easy to despise and to want to see those kinds of Goliaths fail. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But we'll see. I have friends that are very tight with them in terms of engagement and advising them. And I know good people who have said all the way up the food chain, these are good consultant friends of mine who have said, you've got to fix this because it's unacceptable. So I don't think anybody's pulling any punches and saying that they can continue the way they're doing it. But I think people still feel like the long-term prognosis is good. They still believe in Uber. They still believe in
Really?
Uber. Yeah, a lot of people do. So.
And there's a lot of people who are depending on it for work.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people who are depending on it for their livelihood. So, you know, for me, I say, get your stuff fixed, come back better than ever. And, you know, create a great place for people to do work. And I wonder, it'll be interesting to see, you get some more women in senior leadership, you up the level of empathy going on. You know, you and I talked about this last week, all the studies show women in leadership leads to better bottom line results. You know, reducing story ahead. You know, I think there's something interesting to be said here. I'm like really loving the segues today, by the way.
Yeah.
I'm about to have another segue for you.
Yes, I like it.
It's like we were talking about Uber moving to start tipping the drivers, which they so adamantly were against for a long time. Lyft allows to happen. So people were saying that. And you know, even talking, you were saying about Walmart maybe saying, hey, we want to move in this direction of being this kind of company with bonobos and mod. And so I think that, you know, we can certainly hold companies accountable and demand change and feel. But I think we also have to be open to the idea of that sometimes we get new information. And with new information, we move forward. I heard this a lot. People were talking about this during the election with a lot of my friends in the gay community were saying, well, you know, you got to go Bernie because Hillary once upon a with gay marriage. And I say, you know, but I also have family members who once upon a time weren't okay with it because they needed new information. And when new information came, they could make new choices. And so I think sometimes companies are doing that. Case in point is Mattel, who's doing their first, they're giving us a new Ken, thinking of companies getting new information and putting it out there. So we're getting a new Ken doll. The new Ken doll is going to come in slim, broad, or chiseled, which I like to call the trifecta, and seven different skin tones. Some people say about time. I say new information came along and they're responding to what's going on in the world and giving us new stuff. What say you, Kathy?
I think you're right. And I think it's brilliant. It's smart for them to see that the trend of people and gosh, there's been so much discussion about body shaming, body acceptance, and all these movements, which I think are great. And I was teasing Mike before we went live. I was like, I'm waiting for the dad bod Ken doll. It's like,
Is that what the broad one is? Broad? I don't think that's what broad means, right? It's probably just like a football player.
Like a football player, yes. Well, and I like that, though. I like that there's an awareness that things have changed and people are accepting their body types. And we shouldn't live with this, you know, kind of guilt or whatever. And I also love that they're coming in different colors. I mean, why shouldn't you be able to get a Ken doll that it looks like you or doesn't look like you? And if you like, you know, when my niece was 5 or 6, she thought the African-American Bratz dolls were the most beautiful dolls, and that's what she wanted. So that's what she got. And why shouldn't kids have choice? And why shouldn't adults have choice to that reflect reality of our changing kind of world? And I love that. I think it's great. And I think it's smart for Mattel. I think because I suspect they're probably losing a lot of market share to video games and all these different competitive toys. So they kind of have to do something different, don't they? It's so funny you say that. I was in a storytelling workshop with a guy who works at Mattel. Create the videos, like the reality series of Barbie's life. Wow!
So there's a whole YouTube channel about Barbie's behind the scenes Barbie's life, and they create these stories around it. So yeah, it's interesting to see. And I think, you know, again, I saw a comment that somebody said like, well, it's about time. They shouldn't get credit. And I say, you know what, we need to support the changes we want to see. And so I'm excited to see what happens with the new Ken.
Me too. Dad bod Ken all the way. And I love it. I think it's realistic, and it's not just for women. I like that, though. I like that they're also celebrating. Look, you know, it's times do change, and we do sometimes get cynical. You're right, but I think if we want to see more of these changes, we need to support the companies that are doing it and saying, yes, we want to see more of that, because they only respond to what customers buy. And if you don't like something, you vote with your wallet. You vote with your spend. So if you don't like something in the world, don't buy it. If you like it and you want to see more of that, buy more of that. And I think companies will respond to that. I love it. I love seeing it. If only there was there's like a dad bod version of Barbie, like a mom bod, like a post mod, like a mommy bod Barbie doll.
I love it.
She's got curlers in her hair. The only thing I don't support is the smoking. No smoking. But like the curlers in her hair. She's she's like hasn't slept because she's got 3 kids. She's like, you know, working mom Barbie. I want to see a working mom Barbie. That's what I would like to see. Yeah. Why not? You know.
I love that. We need like a digital marketer Barbie.
Exactly. Digital marketer Barbie. Exactly, you know, and she could, different heads. You can have her, you know, the smile is during the day, the I'm exhausted look after work, the I need a glass of wine look, you know, all the different outfits, all the different, you know, the apron to the, you know, anything that's realistic. I think I'm all in favor of. I think that's all good change. So, yeah. The mom bod. Mike's going, I don't even know what to do.
I love it. No, I want one now. I want a broad-chested Ken and a mom bod Barbie.
Yeah, that's it, man. That's it. I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for that Barbie and Ken dream house, whatever that is, in Silicon Valley, where it's like a little shack, you know, and it's got 2 bedrooms and like no yard. San Francisco, and it's overpriced. You know, so
but it costs $2 million.
Exactly. I love it. These are all good things. Anything else, Mike? Anything else percolating?
We did such a fun list. You know, we just joined last night. We just joined YouTube Live, which is the new YouTube offering where you can watch live TV from YouTube. So it's $35 a month, and you get ABC, you get Bravo, you get all the live television. So we just last night. So we've been a non-cable family for, I don't know, 2 years maybe. And so yeah, but we miss all the live TV. We miss all the, you know, Phil wanted to watch The Bachelorette, the new season of Bachelorette, and we couldn't watch it. So we joined YouTube Live. So I think it's an interesting offering.
It is an issue not for talk about an evolution. I think it's smart too. I think everyone is doing things. They had a lot of friends that were cable, right? And watching way too much, and they would only watch certain things with Hulu. And I think YouTube Live is seems like a smart response to the market. And well, Google and anything they own is always pretty smart and responsive to the market. And you'll have to let me know how you like it, because that might be the wave of the future, my friend.
Could be the wave of the future. So far, we can only use it on our phone. We got to get the thing to hook it up to the TV so we can watch it on a big TV. But it looks pretty cool. No contract. So $35 a month, no contract, and you get a ton of channels and an unlimited DVR.
Wow.
That was cool. So you could record anything and you have unlimited DVR. So I'm going to have speaking of mom bods, I'm going to have all the Real Housewives DVR'd. Every episode.
That's awesome. You'll be set for a long time. I think that's really smart. But Google, speaking of, another great example of culture and just the way that they evolve. I mean, they say yes and to everything, and they accept trends. They make trends, but they see trends before they actually really, I think, go mainstream. And they're just so smart and innovative that way. So I think it's great.
You know what I think it comes from? I think it comes from being, because their whole company is based on search. And search is about listening to what people want and giving it to them. And I think you and I know, as from our improvisational work and theater work, listening is so important. And I think it's a thing that so few companies do. And they want to talk about disruption and innovation. Innovation and disruption really just come from listening to what people are doing, whether that's through data. I think there's a huge play there, even to go full circle and have a callback. Amazon and Whole Foods. Amazon's going to have a whole lot of data about how we shop for groceries now. And so them coming up with something, there's one side to look at it and be like, oh, they're going to control the world. There's another side to say, they're just listening. They're just listening to what we're doing and then giving us what we've clearly said we wanted. And I think YouTube Live is an example of that from Google. And I think your comment about Google's culture, I just think they're great listeners, and they've operationalized listening to such a level that they can figure out what we're doing, what we want, and then give it to us. That's really what it's about.
Well said. Well said. I like that. Operationalized listening. That's really what it comes to. I like that, said Mike Ganino.
We're going to do a new course, Operation Listen.
Operation Listen. I know. I think that's so true. They've really taken it to a new level, and they really have made it a commonplace practice. I think that's what's so beautiful about it. And they do listen, and that is something they do well. It's funny, when Amazon first got started, I remember having a boss who said to me in high tech, said, Amazon's smart because it's books today, but books are easy. Books are easy. People don't return books. They don't have to try books on, for size. Books are the easiest thing to sell. And he said, watch, they're building one of the world's largest databases of customers. And this was said, presciently a dozen, or more years ago. This ex-boss I had said that, and he was right. It was like they have built a really smart database of purchasing behavior, and they know the trends, what people do, how they do it, what they buy, how they buy it, the amounts they buy, probably bigger than any other company. And I think Amazon itself is a culture of innovation. It's phenomenal.
Yeah. It's so funny. You just mentioned the people don't try it on. Amazon try it on feature with clothing. So now when you order from a bunch of different, when you order clothes, there's a try it on for, get the clothes and have a try it on period and send back what you don't want. So they're starting to go after that kind of like subscription-based stuff where you get a box. If you don't like it, you send it back. I just read about that today, that the new try it on feature is like it's going to kill retail. So another way to listen.
Another way to listen. I think that's a really great point to bring it full circle, is really listening. And that's improv, man. That's really the heart and soul. So much of it is listening and having empathy and knowing what people want to be able to give it to them. So that's well said. And if any business can do that, these are the elements of how we create great scenes on a stage together. It's all, man, listening is more than half of it, isn't it?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting too, even talking about to really make it full circle, talking about the merger and acquisitions of Amazon and Whole Foods, Bonobos and Walmart, even the Mattel thing with the Ken doll, Uber with the tipping. There's a consistent thing. My friend Tamsin, your friend too, Tamsin Webster talks about the red thread of like there's something connecting all of this, and if you look at all of those, it's listening.
It's listening. It's absolutely true. You know, it's funny. Before I kind of went to improv from stand-up comedy, I thought I knew how to listen, and I think improv sort of took that and heightened it to 11, a Spinal Tap 11. But it's a beautiful thing because listening is really what it is. I mean, I can't tell you how many times lately. It doesn't happen often, but when I have been like frustrated with a bank or whatever. Or a hosting provider, whatever, and I tweet them their help, guess who responds? Their competition responds. So your competition, Yep, it's happened to me several times where like I'm trying to straighten out a bill, couldn't get anybody. Somebody said, hey, why don't you tweet their help handle? So Mike, get this. I tweeted out, hey, I'm trying to get this settled. Can somebody please respond? So I tweet out, here's the amazing thing about listening. And this is a really important competitive point today, is that if you're not listening, your competition is, I promise you. So this hosting company never got back to me, did not get back to me, Mike, on the Twitter help handle. But guess who did? Guess who was monitoring their competitors' Twitter help handle? I got 3 competitive offers. Hey, we see you're happy with blah, 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 blah. We get that a lot. You know what? We've got the super blah, blah, blah killer special. I'm not even kidding you. And this has happened to me twice. It happened with a bank. I'm trying to close my mom's accounts. But, you know, when you lose a parent, you lose a loved one, you've got to take care of these financial things. And I was dealing with a bank that was just, it's like headache. And I tweeted their help handle. No response. No response. But I got 2 competitive banks that said, you know what? We specialize in this kind of stuff. And if you need help, we'll even walk you through the law for free. You don't even have to bank here. We will help. Like this happened. So your competition's listening. And I think this is it's such an important thing about social media listening. So if you're not willing to do it, you better understand that your competition is. And I thought that was powerful. I also thought it was powerful that the people who got back to me weren't even the company. It was their competition.
So great. It's so interesting too, like even thinking about like Glassdoor, places for the employee experience where go and listen. You want to talk about engagement and do surveys. You don't need surveys. You can go read what people are writing and figure out what's going on. Yeah, listening. How interesting. And now I know, I remember seeing some of these posts on your page, so I know who you're talking about. Interesting.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. And it really, you know, it takes me back a little, but then I go, you know, that's really smart because you think about where new opportunity comes from. If a company isn't fulfilling, you know, a user's needs, there are other companies that are like, you know what, that's an opportunity for us to fill. That's a gap. Yeah. That's a happiness gap. And we can come in and step up. And also tells them what you're not doing, that if they had a service or they did X, they could clean up in the marketplace. And I think that's really phenomenal, actually. Mm-hmm. So, you know, if you get competition, go out and, you know, not only look at your own help handles, but you should probably monitor the help handles, like the support, whatever Twitter handles of your competition. Go do it, because I'm pretty sure Amazon and Google are smart and they do that. Yeah. You know, absolutely.
That's so cool. I love that. That is such a great, like, we like really packaged this up, this episode.
We just layered it and we packaged up with a little button. We kind of did a nice little story arc. Back to that. It's like so
people
fun.
Are going to think that we actually plan.
I know. All these, I have to say to people who watch these, and people always love it. We're so, you know, happy that you're watching and gets a lot out of it. These are never planned. Part of the beauty about doing something with somebody like Mike, and Mike is the bomb, is that as an improviser, like, I love being able to just throw something and Mike puts it back to me, and then we are literally co-creating content with no plan, no schedule, really no agenda, just having a human conversation and seeing where it goes. I think that's the beautiful thing about it. It's like so effortless. And then I go, well, of course it is. He's an improviser.
It goes to show that how the skill set is not about, and you and I say this all the time because we have this conversation with people. It's not about creating theater.
No.
It's about finding new ways to work that allow you to be open, to relate, to communicate, to clarify ideas, to distill things. That's really what we're talking about when you hear Kathy and I talking about improv. It's not like, let's go do funny stuff. It's really about how do you listen, have empathy, co-create, and relate to other people, because that's the skill set. And those are, you think about when you're looking for a candidate to come work for your company, you say, what do I want them to be good at? I want them to be able to relate to others, to communicate clearly, to generate ideas. And it's like, oh, well, I know a skill set that can help with that.
They can. And I know a few banks, after dealing with what I've been dealing with, that can have some listening and some empathy and co-creating.
Yeah.
But it's really interesting. And just to sort of button up that point, Mike's 100% right. Look, improv is fun and you'll have a great time. And yes, Virginia, it will make you funnier. But I think the real gift in improv is that it teaches you the tools that we use on stage to create in real time, something magical and spontaneous. And these tools of listening and empathy and co-creating and seeing gifts in the offers. These are the things that every company can do. You can do them. And that's what we've tried to do with talking about culture and how ways that you can listen and use empathy and all the same tools, just packaged a little differently for how you use them in business. But it's fundamentally the same underlying principles that allow us to do that cool stuff on stage that companies can use too. So there you go.
Amen.
Snap. Mike and I are going to come back next week, right, Mike?
We will be here. We're going to have more stuff to talk. It's so funny. Every week I'm like, I wonder what we'll talk about next week. And then somehow we have a whole thing and package a whole show around listening. We
do. And it's so much fun to talk with you. And Mike, where can people find you again?
I'm so easy. You just, if you're here, you see how to spell my name, because somewhere on this, wherever, here, there, here, somewhere, my name is spelled. So you can just look me up, MikeGanino.com. You can also find me on all the social pages at Mike Ganino. And, we can keep chatting, because I listen. So if you chat to me, I'll listen. So find me there. How about you?
Mike is a great listener. Thank you. You can find me at Kathy Klotz-Guest, no hyphen. We took the little pesky hyphen out of there for the Twitterati and all of us. It's a little confusing. I'm also at keepingithuman.com, and I do listen, and people are always surprised when I respond on Twitter. They're like, oh my God, an actual person that responds. And I'm happy they say that, but I'm also a little sad that, gosh, I guess there's a lot of people out there who don't respond. But I promise you, Mike and I, you tweet us, you reach out to us, he and I will respond. We promise. So
cool. And as one final plug, again, LinkedIn, folks over at LinkedIn said this is one of the top summer reads in marketing. It's Kathy's book, Stop Boring Me, which is something I think all companies need to do with their marketing. And again, I'm going to say it one more time in case you missed it at the top of the show. It's packed with exercises. So it's not theory. It's not big ideas. It's actual exercises that if you're running a small marketing team, a big marketing team, you can get this book, read a chapter, and then say, hey, we're going to try something new today. So check it out, because LinkedIn and I say it's one of the best summer reads on marketing. So check it out.
Oh, thanks, man. No, I'm super appreciative. I really am. And Jay says, one last comment. Jay says how much he loved listening to us today. Thanks, Jay. Thanks, brother. Jay, you're out in, I believe Jay is in Austin. I believe, Jay, you're out in Austin, if I remember correctly. And really good guy. Thanks, Jay. I hope you're going to come back and tell your friends. Bring some friends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Stephanie's getting a giggle out of that. She's, I'll plug that book.
Hey, you know what? She doesn't have to, because I love it so much that I'll do it for her. That's how that works.
That's so sweet. Oh, man. Thanks, you guys. Yeah, he's an attorney. He said, yes, I am a lender and attorney in Austin. I try to always remember where people come from, and I love Austin. I love Jay. I was out there for South by Southwest, and I loves me some Austin. And I love Semester's Follies, where I've done comedy, actually. I got to do comedy there, right there at Red River and 6th Street. And so I'm a huge fan of Austin. So, woo woo.
Yeah. If you need some fun, if you're ever working with a group of folks, real estate people, I don't know, maybe that's not what you meant by lender, or attorney, improv is a great workshop for attorneys. So Kathy and I, we've been looking for a reason to do something together.
Absolutely. You got it. We're here. We're here. All right, everybody, thanks so much for joining us. And we'll be here next time. We still have to name the baby Mike. So maybe, I don't know, maybe we throw it out to people who just kind of, give us some ideas, folks. If you have ideas on what we should call this show, we call it Building Better Businesses, but maybe we need a name. Maybe we don't.
We'll see. It'll evolve.
It will evolve. It will organically evolve. So, all right, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mike. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, buddy.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.